Hey guys, we got a great conversation today with David Blough, the NFL quarterback with the Detroit Lions, and his wife, Melissa Gonzalez, who is representing Colombia in the Summer Olympics. Just a few more days, she's going to be competing in the 400-meter hurdles representing Colombia at Tokyo 2020. David Blough and Melissa Gonzalez, they're coming up right now on Sports Spectrum.
Welcome to the Sports Spectrum Podcast, the intersection of sports and faith. Here's your host, Jason Romano.
And welcome to the show. I am Jason. This is a special edition of Sports Spectrum's podcast. You can go to our website, sportspectrum.com, for all of our content, including devotionals, podcasts, articles, updated every day and free, all available at our website, sportspectrum.com. And if you have a guest idea, a show topic, somebody that you think we should be featuring here on the show, you can email me directly. Jason@sportspectrum.com is my email. Jason@sportspectrum.com. I would love to hear from you. And when you go to our website, I forgot to mention this, when you go to sportspectrum.com, make sure you click that button at the top that says newsletter. And when you do that, you just put your email address in. It takes 2 seconds. You click submit and you're good to go to sign up for our Sports Spectrum weekly newsletter that comes to your email inbox for free and updates you on all of the great things happening at Sports Spectrum. All of the podcasts and the articles and the devotionals that you may have missed can come right to your email inbox. And when you do subscribe to our weekly newsletter, we have a little gift for you, a 10-day daily devotional written by professional athletes. Yes, the athletes themselves wrote these devotionals. 10 days. You can help, go through it with the team. It can help you on your own in your walk with Jesus. It's all free when you sign up for our newsletter at sportspectrum.com. Today, we welcome in a power couple like not many we've had on the show. David Blough, who is an NFL quarterback right now with the Detroit Lions, played his college ball at Purdue. David joins us along with his wife, Melissa Gonzalez. Now, Melissa, in just a few days, on July 31st, is going to represent Colombia in the Summer Olympics in Tokyo 2020 in the 400-meter hurdles. Now, she owns the national record in the event, 55.68 time. I mean, just an awesome, dominating performance that allowed her to make the Olympic team with Colombia. Now she's going to be an Olympian. How awesome is that? And at the same time that she's going to be participating, her husband David's going to be in training camp with the Detroit Lions. It's such a unique dynamic, and one I'm sure when they get much older, they'll look back on, hopefully fondly. And like I say, at the end of this conversation, it would be pretty cool to have Melissa Gonzalez, gold medalist, and David Blough, Super Bowl champion, here on Sports Spectrum. But we'll have to wait and see if that can happen. And it's interesting because David and Melissa attended Creekview High School in Carrollton, Texas, and were high school sweethearts. But then their story takes a different path, and they'll tell you all about it. It's a great conversation of faith, marriage, and trusting in God. And it's right now happening here on Sports Spectrum. Let's take a listen. So we welcome David and Melissa to the show. Hi, guys. How are you?
Hey.
Jason, thanks so much for having us on. We're doing great. Thanks for having us.
Good. This is going to be a lot of fun talking to both of you. I met you briefly at the PAO conference right before the pandemic, I think it was, in 2020, and then everything stopped. And now we didn't have an Olympics in 2020. We really didn't have a lot of things that we thought were going to happen last year. Melissa, so let's start with you, because in a few weeks, really a couple days at the time of the airing of this podcast, you'll be in Tokyo representing Colombia at the Summer Olympics. So describe the feeling right now you had when you found out that you had qualified and getting ready to now go to the Olympics and do your thing.
Yeah, just really the first emotion that I felt was kind of relief. Just like finally knowing for sure that I was going to get to go. And we were kind of waiting for the official announcement, but yeah, really excited, really blessed. It's just been a really fun
Dream come true.
Yeah, a really fun couple days for us.
Sounds like a dream come true. Melissa, let's go back to right after when we had met and had that, opportunity to say hello and meet for a few minutes back in, I guess that was late February of 2020, right? So at that point, we didn't know what was going to happen with the pandemic. We didn't know that there wouldn't be an Olympics. In fact, that was probably the last thing we all thought could happen, was that the Olympics would be postponed. And yet it was. Where were you as far as preparation and thoughts at that time on competing in the Olympics, and kind of take us through what 2020 was like for you having to adjust?
Yeah, so at the time I was just about to come back to Dallas to start training for the season and get ready to try to qualify. And yeah, we were really excited. It was looking good. I had been improving up until that point, and so I was really excited for the 2020 season just to see what I could do. And then when we got word that everything was going to be postponed or canceled, it was kind of, at first it was disappointing, but then once we like kind of stepped back and realized, like, if the worst thing that happens to me during this pandemic is that I have to wait a year for the chance to go to the Olympics, that's very, very good, and compared to what a lot of people have gone through this past year. And so yeah, this perspective that I had to see was like a big wake up kind of. But yeah, we just got to train and didn't have to worry about being ready to compete, and we got to put in a lot of hard work, and I think it's paying off this year for us. So
well, congratulations, David. As a husband, I have to imagine this was just awesome to watch from your perspective.
Man, it's been incredible for me, for my family, for her family. Everyone in Carrollton, Texas, where we grew up, is so proud. And she gets to go and represent Columbia, where her father is from and was born and came to America from. And I mean, just to touch on even the last thing, I wish everyone could have. Her perspective throughout the entire pandemic was a wake-up call to me too. I think everybody was frustrated with whether the way things were handled or the situation that we were all dealing in. And she's like, there's people who are sick, there's people who are dying, there's families who are grieving, and the worst thing that's going to happen to me, like she said, is I don't get to run for a year. Like, how blessed are we? How fortunate are we? And it was incredible to see in our home. That kind of led, our mindset. And when she has worked, really the last 4 years, but her whole life, to be on this stage, and it was postponed, it was incredible just to see her attitude and mindset and her gratefulness for health. And I think there were so many blessings that came out of what was a tough year, but now all the, I guess, things on the other side, looking back and seeing how God had his hand in it all, was incredible.
What was the season like last year from your perspective, David? The NFL season I'm talking about, and Melissa, you can chime in, being a wife of an NFL player. Like, it was just an odd year with so many protocols and testing. And I don't even know if you guys could even, I assume you were able to just be in contact with each other, but you couldn't be in contact with too many other people, David. So what was that year like for you going through it last year? It was your second NFL season.
Yeah, I think you described it right. It was odd, just very different. We got tested 150 days in a row or so, however long.
Insane.
From July 28th, whenever we reported, till our last game at the beginning of January, we were tested every day. And that meant, no leaving. We couldn't really spend a weekend somewhere, or, you couldn't do anything for your bye week. You stayed in town. And, so it was just different. Protocols were different. Practices were different. We had players on our team who went weeks without practicing because of contact tracing, and would show up and play in the game. And, so it was just different, and, I think we're looking forward to getting back to normal, things like that, with players who've been vaccinated in our team, and looking forward to what that looks like. But yeah, it was weird not, having your normal community that you can go and hang out with your teammates on for whatever it may be. There, we had to cancel couples Bible study a few nights, a few weeks a year, because of the intensive protocol and things like that. And so that was, it was odd.
So Melissa, from your perspective, right, an NFL, you're also an NFL wife. You're not just an Olympian, I should say, but an NFL player's wife, and so you want to be supportive of your husband and kind of grow in your marriage as well, and in your faith, which we'll talk about in a second. What was it like from your perspective, kind of supporting David in this odd time last season?
Yeah, just it was definitely weird. I think the weirdest part for me was like watching the home games from home when I was like,
you couldn't even go to the games.
We couldn't go. And just trying to help him feel supported and encouraged. And even though they would go and play in an empty stadium, or there would a couple games we did get to go to, and it was still just weird. And I think just trying to help him feel encouraged and supported, because it was a weird year and a lot of things that nobody had ever experienced before. So
David Blough and Melissa Gonzalez are joining us here on Sports Spectrum. I call them the power couple from a sports and athletic standpoint. And interestingly enough, in a couple of weeks, you both are jettisoning to different areas. One is going to Tokyo to compete in the Olympics. The other one is getting ready to report to training camp in the NFL. So as you get ready, and you have a couple of weeks or so, maybe a couple less than a week or so to get ready for that time, what's this been like for you? I'll start with you, Melissa, as you guys kind of are, growing in your marriage and trying to support each other, but knowing that this is coming, where you're going to have some separation for a little while, hopefully not that long, but for a little while, as you each go and embark on your endeavors?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think it's kind of cool and I also think that God prepared us for this, because we did long distance pretty much our whole entire relationship until we got married. So David went to school in Indiana and I was here at UT. And so we just kind of, not so good at the beginning with communication, but definitely got better and have learned how to communicate over long distance. And so I think it's sweet to see how God prepared us for right now in the early stages of our relationship. So yeah, I just think we can use that and just communicate well and learn how to help the other person feel encouraged and supported even from afar.
Technology has to help, I have to imagine, David, too, right? Like, imagine trying to do this in the 80s when all you had was long distance landline phones that cost like thousands of dollars to talk for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It definitely helps to pick up the phone and be able to FaceTime over Wi-Fi or whatever, send a text message and it get there instantly. So that definitely helps.
Yeah, it certainly helps. And we've seen it, throughout, like Melissa said, man, been prepared for it from college. And in college, it was a little bit tougher because you're there year round, so I'm there from, I play in the fall and winter, and then January hits and my season's over, but I can't be home and be around her. I can't be at, where she's going to school. I got to go to school in West Lafayette. And, but now professionally, the NFL affords us to, after my season ends, I get to flip the switch and go and be what she needs to be, me to be, right there with her and support her and drive her to track meets and help book hotels. And, we get to be around each other all the time. So, we did a bunch of long distance in college, but during COVID and quarantine, it was the most time we had ever gotten to spend together. And it was incredible. We grew, we learned, we learned how each other felt loved and how we could serve one another. And then, I think as she goes to Tokyo, she's going to know that, she's got us supporting her. She's got her family here. We're all supporting her. And I feel the same when I'll end up in Detroit in a few weeks. So.
It's interesting too, because you guys were high school sweethearts, but somewhere along the lines made the decision, okay, I'm going to Purdue, I'm going to Texas. We're still going to try and make this work. And often from the people that I've talked to who try to make that high school relationship work when they go to college, it usually doesn't, especially if it's long distance. So I guess, Melissa, how are you able to be intentional to make that work and kind of make it through over those years into where you guys are now. I mean, that's really hard, especially when you're going from being high school sweethearts into college, and so much as athletes in college too, where everything's pulling at you. How do you think you were able to make it work?
Well,
we didn't make it work at the beginning.
Yeah.
I think what really helped our relationship is when we broke up, like 2 years into my college career, and we kind of went our separate ways, and that's where I grew the most spiritually, and really kind of started to understand more of like what a relationship would look like with God as the center. And I think the same happened for David. And so it didn't work at the beginning, and then we split up and kind of had to do our own growing. And then once we both got to a good point, we crossed paths again, and then we're more mature and learned how to
handle it better. I think in high school I was 16 when we started talking, and she was 17 going off to college, and thought, as all 16-year-olds do, thought, I had everything figured out and knew how to treat a woman. And, I was just scratching the surface, and fell short in a lot of areas. And so we broke up and kind of figured it out. She was at Texas and I was at Purdue, and trying to figure it out. And I knew there was something special about her, and knew that God had her in my life for a reason. And it wasn't always perfect, but we figured it out, I guess, in the spring of 2017, and kind of got engaged in the spring of 2018, and then married in the spring of 2019. But our relationship just, kind of grew from, I guess, the experiences we had along the way, and the trials and everything that came with it, and the ups and the downs. And we're so thankful for it all. And now, after 2 years of marriage, we are so blessed to be sitting here. And high school sweethearts, but not perfect, and grew a lot along the way. And that's what's made it special, and why every day I love her more and more.
David, what was it that brought you guys back? I mean, was it, when you say you kind of went your separate ways, I think those were the words you used, Melissa. Were you not talking at all? I'm always fascinated by this, because sometimes it's a clean break. It's like, we're just not going to communicate at all. Or do you kind of stay in touch and just keep, seeing how each other's doing, and then come to a point where you're like, you know what, I think I really want to make this work. What was that for you, David?
Yeah, I actually, after we broke up, I dated another girl at Purdue, and I knew deep down in my heart that there was something about Melissa that every single day of my life, she challenged me to be better spiritually, to be better physically, to be better emotionally. And, I knew really since the first day I met her in Texas, even with our breakup in between, I knew that, sorry, our dog just hit his head on a table down. I knew that there was something special about her, and that she was going to be the one I married. And we talked it out. She showed me grace. There were things that we needed to grow in, and she,
Sure.
we talked it out and figured it out. And one day back in Dallas, after I had been home for a little bit of time, we talked and said, hey, you know what, like, we need to try to rebuild and, reconstruct this relationship and friendship. And it started as a friendship, and then, got back into dating and things like that, and trying to serve and grow with one another. And I knew, man, I don't know what it is, but the heart knows. So.
Yeah, well, I'm glad it worked out, obviously, for both of you, and will continue to work out. Melissa, I want to ask you about your faith. We've talked about like sort of this spiritual journey, and this podcast is not just sports, but it's the intersection of sports with faith in Christ. So for you, tell me about the importance of Jesus in your life, and how that's played a role as an Olympian now, as a wife, as a daughter, as a sister, I'm guessing, all of that. Can you share how God has really revealed himself through Christ in your life?
Yeah. Man, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have been able to continue my track career past high school without my relationship with God. When I went to college, I was like really excited and really like kind of on a path of where I thought I was going to end up eventually to be running as a professional athlete. And I didn't have a great college career. And it when I started not seeing progress in college, I realized that I was finding my identity in sports and being the one who's good at being an athlete and excelling in what I'm doing on the track. And when that wasn't happening, I realized like, wow, this is like why I feel so sad about all of this is because I think that's all I am. And God blessed me with bringing me in contact with some really godly women who poured into me and spent time asking tough questions and challenging me to find out, to push me to come to that realization, and then helping me grow to the point where I knew that I'm a child of God first, and that no matter what I did on the track, if I never ran another race, if I never won another race, if I never got any better, I'd still be worthy and valuable to Jesus. And I think the freedom of realizing that helped me to be able to finish my college career and then even try to run professionally. And yeah, so I think, gosh, it's just kind of crazy to think about where I was in the beginning. But I wouldn't be able to be here without knowing that truth first, that I'm a child of God.
Was there a moment for you, Melissa, where you just said yes, or where you got it, where it clicked? Because you may have, I don't know your background, you may have grown up in a Christian home, but for all of us, even if you grew up in that home as adults, we kind of have to have that moment where it just clicks, whether we get baptized, whether we just say yes, whether we're all in, whatever that is. Did you have that moment?
Yeah, so I was saved when I was 13 at a summer camp, and I knew the gospel and I knew like all the right answers. I grew up in church and all of that. But yeah, like I was saying, I didn't have that realization of like the gospel applies to my life in every aspect until I got to college. And I don't really remember the exact moment that it clicked, but I remember the moment that I realized whatever was happening before didn't click. When I realized it was like, whatever I'm doing up till now, this is not going to work and I can't sustain this. Yeah, I was on the track, and one of the athletic trainers like came up to me and she asked me like if I was doing okay, that I seemed different to her. And I hadn't realized up until then that I was like putting on a fake happiness, like I got it all together, but really I was just barely holding on. And when she asked me that, it just like kind of broke down. And that's when I started to realize whatever I'm trying to do, holding all my life together by myself and with my own strength is not going to work. So yeah, after that point, that's when I started to meet with some of the athletes in action and crew staff. Those women really helped me grow.
It's awesome. David, how about you? Share a little bit about, I think when we had you on last time, I don't think you shared your testimony, because when we had you on, we talked a little bit about your unique relationship with Tyler Trent and the Trent family. But we didn't really get a chance to spend time with you on your faith, I don't think, in your testimony and kind of where God has brought you into where you are today. Can you kind of share a little bit of that?
Yeah, I like similar to Melissa, I grew up in a Christian home too. And, first thing when I'd walk out of my door, I'd see my mom reading her Bible and drinking her cup of coffee, and I'd get in the car with my dad, and he would say, "This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it." And from a young age, that's how I was raised, and that's what I saw in my home. And similar to Melissa, I accepted Christ as a fifth grader at Pine Cove Christian Summer Camp in East Texas, but that was because somebody said, "Hey, you won't go to hell if you accept Jesus,
Right.
if you accept the gospel." And it wasn't my own faith. At that time, it wasn't my own faith at all. It was, hey, I'm going on Wednesday nights to shoot hoops with my buddies, and I'm going on Sunday to be in the small group because my mom says we're going to church. But it wasn't until high school that, yeah, it clicked for me that, if we have this book that as believers we believe to be true, like then everything in it is true, and we got to live that way. And there were experiences I kind of had a stretch of kind of a rough spell, I'd say. My parents got divorced when I was a freshman in high school, and had a buddy pass away. One of my teammates pass away, and I could reflect and see that God had been placing these friends in my life to pull me along the right path. Even when I would have had every excuse to go left, my friends my friends who I just went to shoot hoops with on Wednesday night were there to walk alongside me and pull me down the right path. And I remembered, hey, I'm the quarterback of the school. I have an influence that I know Jesus, the Redeemer, the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords. How selfish would I be not to share it with everybody that I know? And I have this platform that I've been given. Let's do it, basically. And it's been that way my whole life. I look back and I see ups and downs, injuries, coaching changes, being benched, playing quarterback, good games, bad games, and I've seen God's hand in it all. And the perspective I've gained from so many different things that in my life, it's incredible to look and see just how God has placed men around me, like Melissa said about the women around her, and a godly wife and parents who love Jesus, and opportunities to share and try to further his kingdom, and grow me as a man. And yeah, I know Melissa said she wouldn't be sitting here, but I wouldn't be sitting here today either without the grace and love and forgiveness of Jesus.
It's beautiful to hear. What was that adjustment like for you coming to the NFL, David, as a follower of Christ? The NFL very open with many guys who love the Lord, and certainly team chaplains that are placed within. And you talked about the couples Bible study and things like that. So I think there are plenty of opportunities to stay connected to the Lord, but there's also plenty of opportunities when you become a pro to distance yourself in that way or get caught up in all of the fame that comes with being a pro athlete. What was that adjustment like from your perspective, David?
Yeah, I think, since I was 10 years old or whatever, my goal in my head had been, hey, I want to be in the NFL. All that, you say that and you get there, and you see things, you see guys who have everything that this world here on earth can offer them, whether it's money or the ability to have cars or things that, if I just have that, it'll make me happy. If I just have, if I just have the woman or the car or the house or the fame or the following or whatever it may be, that'll make me happy. And I see guys sometimes who are empty. And I know that when I walk into that building every single day, I have a light that whether I'm injured or whether I'm a backup or cut or on the practice squad or whatever, that it's not going to steal my joy. It's not going to, this business and kind of the cutthroatness of it, it's not going to steal what I have in Jesus. It's not going to steal the freedom that Melissa talked about, that I can walk in every day with and know that, hey, playing quarterback is just what I do. It's not who I am. I follow Jesus. That's who I am. And I have an opportunity every single day when I walk in a locker room to share that with guys who need it, who have an incredible influence, and that's kind of the fun mission field for me, is these guys can reach so many. And I've seen so many friends and incredible leaders, men that I've been around who have done it right. And it's inspiring for me and what I want to be as a follower in an NFL locker room.
Melissa, do you see that parallel similarly with your role as a professional athlete as well, and the role that God has placed you in?
A parallel, but definitely on a smaller scale, and a little bit different because I'm not in a team sport. I have my training group that I work with every day, and so I see them, and so I really love being able to like develop the close personal relationship with like one or two of my teammates, and that I see like on a really consistent basis. But yeah, just getting to know people like on a deep level and knowing like what is their family life growing up, like what is their church background, and how do they feel about different things, and really trying to understand people and understand the nuance that different people can bring to the table, that one stereotype never fits everybody. So yeah, definitely a little bit different, just because of the difference of our sports, but yeah, kind of the same end goal, I guess, of having our work be the mission field.
Melissa, with your marriage, walk us through, because I think a lot of people who listen are younger people who are thinking about getting married or maybe married young in their marriage, who love sports. Describe how you guys, and maybe David, you can pick up on the back end, how you've been able to keep Jesus at the center. I think you said that, David, and Melissa, you might have as well, in terms of identity and Christ being everywhere with us, right? And not just being a piece of our life, but being the centerpiece, as I like to share and say sometimes. How has that been with your marriage? Because it's so important, I think, in marriage to not make yourselves the idol of each other or the gods of each other, and remember who's in charge. How have you guys kind of learned to do that together? I'll start with you, Melissa.
Yeah, I think we have kind of definitely imperfectly tried to remember that the other person is not going to be the one who can like fulfill everything that we desire. And so if I'm like feeling like I need love or acceptance or whatever, yeah, David can supply that to me like in the short term, but I have to know that my ultimate like fulfillment and joy and happiness and those all good things come from the Lord. And so I have to know that my worth doesn't come from being David's wife or how good I can clean the house or make a meal or whatever. And if I know that, then I don't have this expectation from him to fill this void that he's never going to be able to fill, and that will be very frustrating for both of us.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think remembering to have yourself filled from the Lord first and not expect that from your spouse. And we definitely don't do that perfectly, but that I think we try to remember.
How about you, Dave?
Yeah, hard to add on for me to add on to that, but we heard a pastor at a church that we attended, or I attended kind of as a kid growing up, and he explained it as, hey, if you think about it as a triangle, if you think about, hey, David, you're here at the base of the triangle, Melissa, you're here at the base of the triangle, and Jesus is that center point. The closer that the two of you grow towards Jesus, the closer you grow together. And I've always just tried to think about that in my everyday life whenever I'm trying to, be the man that I'm called to be as her husband. One day, hopefully be the father that I'm supposed to be in our household. And that everything I do in word or deed is to glorify God and to bring a light to his purpose. And that's how it's supposed to look in our marriage. That's how when people see our marriage, it's supposed to look imperfectly, but when others see us, we want them to see the light on the hill, the city on the hill, or the light on the lamp, and we want people to see that whenever they look in on us. And I think that drives our interaction with one another, and imperfectly, but yes.
I like that you keep using the word imperfectly. I think that's important, because if we say it's perfect and we got to figure it out, then we've clearly just said no to God, right? Because that's the opposite of needing him and wanting him in our lives. I do want to ask you your engagement story, David. I'll let you tell it from your perspective. How did that proposal go? What was that like, buying the ring and trying to pop the question?
Oh man. I think that was about as nervous as I've ever been. But we
wait, you started on Thanksgiving Day, your first NFL game. Am I right on that?
And I tell you what, my first NFL game on Thanksgiving Day, July 31st, when she runs in Tokyo, I'll be 3 times more nervous watching her run than when I started on Thanksgiving. But man, our proposal story, it was May 27th of 2018. And I used some money that my mom had kind of set aside for me to go to college, to buy the ring, and asked her family, the month, or I think it was in January that year, I asked her family, for their blessing. I asked her mom and dad for their blessing. And then I came home in May, kind of between my junior and senior year, going into my senior season, and bought the ring. And we went to church. It was a Sunday morning. It was like 95 degrees in Dallas. It was a Sunday morning, and after church, we went to brunch. And one of my buddies, who is our waiter, he was such a blessing to us, and he took care of us and even prayed for us. But I had told him what was about to happen, and he was taking pictures with us, and I thought he was going to blow it, and then it was 95. I kid you not, Jason, it was 95 degrees, and I convinced her. I was like, "Hey, let's go to the nature preserve where a lot of the most important conversations in our relationship had happened." It's like, "Oh, let's just go for a walk."
At noon.
95 degrees at noon.
After lunch. And I was like, "Hey, if there's water in this creek down there, let's go down there." And I knew there was going to be water because I was there the day before setting up the photo shoot, all that stuff. And I basically, I just told her what I told you, is that she has challenged me to be the best version of myself, mentally, physically, spiritually, every day of my life, and that I wanted to spend it with her. And I got down, my heart was racing, and she said yes. And we went home, and family was there. It was really.
No, it's very special.
It was very special.
Melissa, did you know it was coming? Did you have an inkling?
I mean, we had talked about eventually we were going to get married, but I had assumed that wouldn't happen until after he graduated from college. And now looking back on that day, I should have known something was happening. But also, David is not great at keeping secrets. So I'm just impressed that he pulled that off and didn't spoil it for himself by telling me. But I didn't see it coming. I had no idea.
Even had a friend come into town and say, "Hey, I'm here. Let's go get our nails done." I did, I went all out for it. So I was proud of that. I'm not very good at secrets, but I was proud of that.
Oh, that is a great story. As we wind down, one more question I want to ask each of you. It's the same question. Hopefully different answers, but it might be the same answer, and that's okay. But what is the best lesson that God has taught you thus far in your marriage? So we'll start ladies first with Melissa. What's the best lesson thus far, because you're just a couple years in, that God has taught you in your marriage?
The first thing that just came to my mind is that with the amount of grace that God has shown me in ways that I have failed him time and time again, I can't do anything but show grace to everyone, but especially my husband. And that just is constantly convicting me.
Oh, that's a good lesson. That's a good lesson. How about you, Dave?
Yeah, the first word that jumped into my mind was grace also. I know you said hopefully they're different, but
that's okay.
Yeah, as a husband, I think nowadays I guess our world is kind of self-consumption, how do I, me is the best way I think I can put it. And it's incredible, the lessons that I've learned the last 2 years of every day, how can I sacrifice myself for her? If Jesus came here and lived as a servant and walked this earth and washed people's feet and loved the least of these, walked around, everything that I do in a day should be to serve her. And everything that, my whole life my whole life and my daily actions, my actions should be resolved around bringing glory to God's kingdom and loving my wife the best I can. And hopefully people see, hey man, that guy loves Jesus through the way he lives and acts.
That's wonderfully said. He is David Blough, getting ready for a third NFL season with the Detroit Lions and getting ready for training camp. And his wife, Melissa, she's getting ready for something big too, getting ready for Tokyo 2020. And David's rocking the Olympic t-shirt and getting ready to cheer on Colombia. It's got to be a little weird real quick before I say goodbye, David. Like we're Americans and you always want the American teams to do well, but Melissa's representing Colombia. So we're Team Colombia this year.
We're Team Colombia. We've been Team Colombia for a long time, but I mean, proudly Team Colombia. And, I love watching athletes and just strive for greatness, wherever they're from. And I just can't wait to see Melissa on that stage and live out that dream.
Melissa, real quick, because I said July 31st. I want to make sure I'm right there. That's when you'll be racing, so people listening can make sure they tune in and watch July 31st.
Yeah, that's when the first round is scheduled for the Olympic Games.
All right. Well, hopefully the next time I see you guys, hopefully it's in person next year. I can get to hang out with a gold medalist. That would be kind of cool. Or a Super Bowl champion, or both. Who knows? That would be pretty neat. But either way, it'll be great to see you guys, and it's great to have you here on the show. So thanks for joining us, David. And Melissa, all the best to you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Jason. We really appreciate it.
And many thanks to David Blough and Melissa Gonzalez for being our guest today here on Sports Spectrum. How about Melissa, getting ready to compete in the Summer Olympics in Tokyo 2020 in just a few days, July 31st. Make sure you tune in and watch her represent Colombia in the 400-meter hurdles. And then her husband, David, at training camp right now, getting ready for a third NFL season with the Detroit Lions and a third NFL training camp. And just so cool to watch where God has both of them in their lives, and thankful that they were able to take a few minutes out of their busy schedule to share about their story here with us on Sports Spectrum. Support them on Twitter, Instagram, on social media. Let them know that you heard about their journey and about how God is working in their life right here on Sports Spectrum, the intersection of sports and faith. We want to bring Jesus back into the conversation. And hopefully with your help, we can tell as many people as possible about who Jesus is. And listen, that's what we are here at Sports Spectrum. We want to be a resource for you to share with others about what Christ has done in the lives of athletes all around the world. And in this case, with Melissa Gonzalez representing Colombia in Tokyo, Japan, at the Olympics. And again, use Sports Spectrum as a resource, and do us a quick favor, follow and subscribe to this podcast, and then tell someone about Sports Spectrum. Maybe you heard this story and you know of a newlywed couple or somebody that's getting ready to get married. Man, share David and Melissa's story with them so they can see the importance of having Christ in their lives. And so that's what we want to be known as here at Sports Spectrum, is a resource that you can use to share the gospel with other people, and using sports as the sort of, gateway, the middleman, if you will, to connecting people with Jesus. That's what we do here at Sports Spectrum. So thanks for tuning in. Make sure you check out sportspectrum.com on your way out, our website, and tell someone about Sports Spectrum, and join us next time right here on the podcast. Thanks for joining us. See you next time. This is Sports Spectrum. Have a great rest of your day.